Hi, this is PD at BurgZerg Arcade at BurgZergArcade.com, and this is tutorial number 30. In this tutorial, we're going to add our vitals and our skills to our little save routine. So let's go ahead and open up Mono Development. Okay, I'm in the game settings script. And we're pretty much just going to cut and paste this, except now I'm going to change the type of, instead of attribute name, we'll go vital name. Just quickly look through. We'll also want to change it here. And here. We'll probably need to change it. Nope, that's right. Now we'll want to take a look to see if there's anything else we want to save out of here. So we know our vitals come from here. So our current value, we should save that. So let's add that now. So we'll go to this line here, just above it. I'm just going to cut and paste it. I'll change this to current value. I'm just going to say cur value. We're not going to want to get primary attributes. We're going to want to get the vitals. So we're just going to say get vital. And then just delete everything up to the CNT for the braces. And for this one down here as well. And the one we're looking for was current value. So we want to look for the setter and getter for current value. If we have it. It helps to be on the vital class. And that's what we called it. So we go over here, just delete that. Hit the dot. And there's current value. We'll save that off. Let's go back into vital. All my level modifiers for all my vitals are the same, but again, if yours are different for each different vital, make sure you actually save that as well. So we got the experience level, we got our current value. Is that what I called it? I just want to make sure I did. Yeah, current value. That's inherited from, oops, I just closed it. Well, it was inherited from modified stat. So I'm going to go over to modified stat and take a look to see if there's anything there I want to save. All we have is a mod value and the list of modifying attributes. Now we are going to want to save this list. I'm just trying to think of how I want to do it. It'd be nice if I could save a class directly to the P files, but we can't. So the only options I have that Unity gives me are the string, the int, and the float. So I'm going to have to parse it into some sort of string. We'll do that last. Let's just make sure we got everything else. Now the mod value we don't really need to store because we can just call it calculate mod value and recalculate exactly what it's supposed to be anyway. Now you actually could store the mod value and load it up and do a recalculation to see if it's the right value. It might be some sort of way you could use it to, stop people from tampering with the save file. Because as you can see, a plist is pretty easy to go through and change. And on the Windows version, they can just go into the registry. But we're not going to worry too much about piracy right now, especially since it's just a single player game. So let's just save this off and make sure it works. Go into Unity. We'll hit play. I guess we'll start over again. PD. Not petty. Petat. Charisma. Oh, let's raise some of these. Let's do Constitution. We'll bring it up to 60. This way our health is at 30, energy at 60. We'll hit create. close it. I'm going to open up Finder, open up the file, and here we go. Energy base value, 0. Current value, 0. Energy experience to level, 50. I'm just going to take a look at that. I thought I changed it. I'll have to load it back up. That was vitals. Experience to level is 50. I'm just going to drop that down a bit. Now keep in mind that base values are only raised by spending experience on them. The only exception to that is at the beginning when you're generating your character, we have it set up that we have a set amount of points we can spend on our attributes. So the first save of your character after the generation, all your base values should be 0 except for your attributes because you haven't spent any experience on them yet. Now the current value we really don't want to start at 0 because we're going to be checking to see what our current value is quite often, and if it ever does reach 0, then we die. So we should have some way that after character generation and before we save to set it to whatever the maximum modified value of the health is for when we're generating our character, and then save it then. So let me just go take a look at the script here. Where would we add that? Character generator script. So here's the button to raise and lower our attributes. We could put it there and then have it change it every time we raise and lower our attributes. And in this case, for me, it would be Constitution. But I think a better way actually to do it would be in our button when we create the player. So before we save the character, I'm just going to add a comment here. Change the curve value of the vitals to the max modified value of that vital. This is where we're going to set our current value for our vitals, and we want it just before we call the save character data. Now let's look at how we're going to generate our list of modifying attributes. So I'm going to go over to my vitals class. Actually, I'm going to need it for skills too, so we should put that in modified stats since it is dealing with our modified attributes list. Now I have no way to actually directly access that list besides being able to add modifiers. I'm just going to create a new function that returns a string of all the indexes of our modifying attributes. So I'll put that down here. Now it's going to have to be public. It'll return a string. And let's call it get modifying attribute string. Okay, so how are we going to do this? Well, we'll just want to iterate through our list and take the modifying attribute and then just add it to a string with some sort of delimiter. Now there's two ways we can do it. One is we can actually add the name of the modifying attribute or its index. I'm going to do the actual index, so it's just going to be like for anything that has might as a modifying attribute, I'll add a 0 instead of adding the word might, but you can do it the other way if you want. So I'm going to create a temporary string. And then create a for loop to iterate through all of our modifying attributes. So we'll just do for int cnt equals 0, cnt is less than mods dot length or count, and then increase our counter, and then we'll want to return the string for now I'm just going to return a null or an empty string. And then in here I'm just going to debug out the modifiers for now. So I'll have to use the Unity engine .debug.log, and then I'll want to go into mods. I'll want to grab the index. Let me see, so I can get the attribute, I can get it to string or its ratio. So for our modifying attribute, all we're passing in is the attribute and a ratio, and our attribute doesn't actually have a way to tie it to where it is in the num list. And this is the problem with coding everything on the fly without planning things out ahead of time. So I need a way to tie the modifying attribute to the actual attribute, well, as far as its position in its enumeration. Because without it, all I'm going to get, so I can call the attribute, but that's just going to return the attribute class, and we can't save a class to our plist file. So if we hit create, yeah, see, we just get 3 attribute returns. So the 2 easiest ways to do this would be to add another parameter to our modifying attribute, which would be its index in the enumeration list, or actually add another variable to our attribute, which is going to hold the index. I'm actually just going to add, I think I'll just add a private variable here. I'm just going to call it, it's going to be a string, and we'll call it name. Down here we'll set the name to be equal to an empty string. And then we'll have to make a setter and getter for it. So public, it's going to be a string, name, then a getter, and a setter. So this is just going to return name, if I spell it right. And the setter will set the name. And this should be name. Okay, so when we're setting up our character, we'll actually have to pass in the value of the name, but that's not too hard. That'll be under base character, where we set up our primary attributes. We'll just have it set up the name as well. So we're going to have 2 commands here, so we will need the braces. So primary attribute, counter variable, dot name is equal to, we'll just use the num name, and we have that in several places. We can just cut and paste that. Attribute name right here. So we'll cut that, go over to attribute, base character, and it will be equal to the attribute name.cnd to string. Save that off, go back to our modified stat, and add a dot there, and just say name. Now let's test that out.